Hello, everybody, from the Matt Morris Digital Studio here in Fresno, California. This is the Beem and Dean Show, episode 90 on this Thursday, February 12th, with the sports director of KSEE24 and CBS47, Scott Bemis. I am Dean Schiro. Welcome aboard. We have a new leader in the clubhouse in our little betting competition. We'll talk about that a little later. I don't know if it's leader or loser, but we'll talk about that later. The Olympics are hot and heavy underway right now. We got a lot to talk about there. U.S. picking up some steam with medals. And any opening thoughts, Scotty?
Opening thoughts? Well, we always talk about how we kind of have odd schedules, Dean, and so the Olympics is fun, right? Because you wake up, we, have jobs sometimes where we don't have to be in at 9 a.m. We're at home maybe, at 10 a.m. through noon, or don't have to come until 2. And so having Olympics on in the afternoon, I know it may not be ideal for everybody who are working 9 to 5 jobs,
right? But
it's ideal for us, right? And I love it.
So Scotty and I are both in management roles, so our schedules are all over the place. So to sometimes have, Olympic competition going on during the daytime, when usually it's like 4 p.m. or, normally for sports. But it's great for the sports watcher. And the Olympics have been great so far, too. I've really, really enjoyed them. So any opening thoughts on the Olympics?
On the Olympics, I just love it when these other sports get highlighted. See, for me, the Olympics, look, I'll get into the hockey, during the summer. I'll watch the gold medal basketball, and I'll check in on Team USA, on the hardwood. But that's not what makes the Olympics super special to me. To me, it's like waking up today and watching Team Luge. I didn't even know Team Luge existed. It's a relay in luge, Dean. It's really cool. Like, it starts with a singles woman. She goes down, hits something, and then the devil's men go. And then they get to the end, and they hit something, and then the singles man goes. And then they hit something. And I was like, how cool is this? This is really cool. A team event in luge. The moguls. The Americans did really well in the moguls yesterday. Had 2 medals in that event.
Yes.
I grew up in Orange County. I've kind of been around extreme sports my whole life. A bunch of friends who participated in it and this and that. Kind of dabbled in a few things and snowboard and ski pretty regularly. I love watching this stuff. I have so much respect for these athletes, knowing how hard it is to do what they're doing.
Yeah, it's crazy, Scotty. It really is. I mean, I have so much respect for all of them. There was that guy today I don't know if you heard, I think he was like 54 years old. He participated for the United States in the curling competition. He's like the oldest American ever. Good for him, right?
We got to get out and curl.
Hey, listen, I guess the oldest Olympian ever is 71 on record. So we still have a little bit of time to figure out what's going on here. We still have, Scotty, there's still a chance for us.
Every time the Olympics rolls around, we could do it in curling, right? We could. We could absolutely do it.
Yeah.
By the way, I turned 50 last week, and I sent out a text.
It's also his 12-year anniversary here at the station, too. Happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you. Yep. I sent out a text to my family in response to some of them, with some great well wishes for me, which I really appreciated.
Yeah.
And my response was, "Hey, thank you so much. I'm officially Champions Tour eligible as of right now. So let's get out to the driving range."
Scotty's a scratch golfer, by the way. Don't let him fool you.
Scratch golfer.
He's got a chance, you guys. So
scratch golfer plus 8.
We're going to get into the Olympics right now with some coming in hot. All right, Scotty, we're going right back to the Olympics for coming in hot today. I saw an interesting story today, and I figured it's kind of cool to elaborate on. We're going right back to the luge, as you just said. We had a luger from the Ukraine who was disqualified, basically, or did not participate. I'm not sure how it went, but basically because he wanted to put 50 of his murdered friends in the Ukrainian-Russian war on his helmet. The Olympic organizers did not allow that, so we moved on. I think the only point I kind of want to make on this, Scott, is I have no problems with people in the Olympics making political statements. I just don't feel like it should happen during the competition. I feel like that's where it should be about country and sport. That's the only point I'm kind of making. If you want to make a statement before the Olympics or after your competition's over, maybe switch helmets and put on the helmet of your 50, departed friends. It's a horrible situation with this war. I'm not trying to glamorize anything. All I'm trying to say is that I feel like the competition should be about the athlete and it should be about the country at that moment. And then, in my opinion, the rest of it can happen elsewhere. So I'll get your take on it.
Well, it's always a tricky situation with the Olympics because at its essence, what is it? It's a sporting event.
Yes.
Right? It's a celebration, or it should be a celebration of tremendous athletes worldwide and of people coming together in a way, to compete against each other, hopefully with sportsmanship and goodwill and, people from different countries, interacting and meeting, and that's what it should be about.
Sure.
But there's no way in the current climate that exists internationally, throughout history really, that politics is not going to be a part of this in some way. And we've seen it, in a big way, right? Like in 1980 or 84, when the Americans boycotted in 80 and then the Russians boycotted in 84 when the Olympics were here.
I understand.
And so I think, and I'm also a big believer that I think athletes should be able to express themselves, which I think you are in agreement with as well.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm not against it.
And so I'm kind of towing the line here. I don't really have like a strong take one way or another. I think the way that the IOC probably handled this was fine to say, hey, we have rules that are in place, right? Mm-hmm. As far as political statements during, the event, yes. And that's fine. But I also think this loser should be able to express his opinion, about what's going on. That's your right as a human being, right? When you think in some way something is unjust, so like I always want to remember that it is a sporting event, in a way, because it gets so politically charged at times.
Yes.
And like today in that Team Luge event, like I was telling you, the Ukrainian team, at the end of it, NBC showed a shot of after their run, they all held up their helmets with something in it. And
fine.
And that brought light to it. Now, ironically enough, with them, saying, hey, we're not going to allow you to wear this helmet. In a way, it kind of even shines more light on it, doesn't it? In a way, because now it makes headlines worldwide. So it's tough to find the line, right? Mm-hmm. What is the line, right? Because it's like sometimes they're really positive things, right? Somebody, wants to thank somebody in some way on their uniform for somebody who's been super supportive, or somebody, wants to remember somebody inspirationally.
We had the figure skater whose parents were perished in the Washington, D.C. air crash. Hold the picture up after his event. Beautiful moment. So yes, there's positives on this as well. I'm not trying to say that. So
and sometimes, famously here in the Central Valley, right? Tommy Smith from Lemoore and John Carlos in the 1968 Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, right, it was not received well. I wasn't around then, but from what I've read about it and seen stories on it, but that is remembered as a seminal moment in civil rights history. In this country.
But my point there is that he didn't wear the black glove when he was running the race, though. So he wore the black glove for the ceremony.
I get your point. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I just feel like there should be a uniformity, just like we have in sports right now.
Right.
We don't have, other than soccer, we don't have anyone wearing a different colored jersey. Or I think volleyball, they wear the libero, I think, wears a different color. But you usually wear the standard uniform of your country, so that's my whole point there. I want to mention one other thing on the Olympics, though, is the Olympics, whether it's post, pre, or during the event, a great spot to express your infidelity. Switching gears.
Yeah.
So anyone who didn't see, I believe it was it Norwegian or Swedish or anyway, he had
cross-country skier, correct?
He was a biathlon. He was shooters. Okay. He finished in the bronze medal, and he got so emotional at the end that he expressed on live television that he was unfaithful to his girlfriend of 6 months.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If I think he did this because he was trying to express how much he loved the girlfriend that he had cheated on.
He did. He said that.
He was trying to kind of say, I made the hugest mistake of my life. Do you think she takes that message warmly? Or do you think she's upset? What do you think?
Well, luckily we have reaction already from her.
We do? I didn't see this. Okay.
Yes, and she is still processing and hasn't fully forgave him yet, according to media reports. But that's a tough one. I just wanted to kind of transition from a difficult situation, but
this is one where we need Susan Bemis in that chair or Angelique Martinez.
Exactly. So, but it's just an interesting topic there. Let's get to your coming in hot. We'll transition now. The NBA, Scotty. We've talked about this before. Teams tanking to try to get better draft picks. Teams not playing with their full arsenal. I don't know if you noticed, but it seems like almost every team now, standard league, does not play with their same five that they had in back-to-back games, whether it's a young guy like Wembanyama or an older guy like LeBron James or Luka Doncic. They're not playing in back-to-backs anymore. So I don't know if you saw the Lakers line up the other night against San Antonio, but it was pretty much Bronny James, starting, Laravia starting.
And this is like
even
a prime
DeAndre
time.
Ayton did, yeah.
And this is a primetime game, right? Like that's getting showcased.
It was. So, and the Lakers got blown out by 40.
Yeah.
So, what is your thoughts there, and what are your methods to curb this so that teams can't tank to get better picks?
Well, NBA tanking. I think it's time for us to come to grips with the fact that it's going to happen. That one way to improve yourself is to tank. I mean, for lack of a better word, right? The worst, we've talked about it before. The worst place to be in the NBA is just good enough to make the playoffs in either conference. Sure, your fans may get the experience of being in the playoffs, but if your goal is to win a championship, you're going to not be drafting high enough. You're not going to be in the lottery to have a realistic chance, of getting that top pick or whatever. And, okay, you get to the playoffs, you lose in the first round, and you're kind of stuck in the same spot, just, forever being in the middle, like mediocre is like the worst place to be in the NBA.
Sure.
And that's sad in a way that that's what it's come to. So, but it's the reality of the situation. And so teams, I think the Jazz, right, are the example of, I think Jaren Jackson, we found out today that he's going to be out for a while.
He shut it down.
He's been dealing with something, but the Jazz have kind of been the poster child for this because I think they've been not playing guys, right, like even in fourth quarters.
Yeah,
from what I heard.
They're better players like Markkanen and Nurkic. They're not playing those guys a lot.
Now, I'll give the Jazz credit. They look to me like they're trying to win, like meaning long-term, not in the immediate short term. But, they made a move for Jaren Jackson.
Yes.
They've got a little core there that maybe they can start building around, but you're still going to need more pieces. And so how do you get those pieces? Well, hopefully you get a great draft pick in what's going to be a loaded NBA draft coming up. And so what do? You try to sort of win, but you try to sort of lose at the same time, right, team? So that's the problem. So how do we address this in any way? Well, I've mentioned on this show before, I think, and I heard somebody else actually mention this recently, which so gives me some excitement that like, hey, maybe Beem and Dean is being blasted out to the sporting landscape.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I think there should be some kind of thing in place where after a certain point in the season, maybe like after game 50 or game 60, however you want to do it, that you kind of lock in the state. Like you're going to get a certain number of ping pong balls in the lottery based on where you eventually finish.
Right.
But then you earn more ping pong balls by how many wins you get in the last 20 or 30 games.
I like it.
And you kind of make it so that, wins are very meaningful at the end of the year. Now, ironically enough, it's kind of, for a player, it's interesting because in a way you're going to try to win so they can draft somebody who's going to try to replace you, right?
True.
In the end, which is...
Or compliment you.
Yeah, but I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of guys who are kind of fringe guys, right? Maybe NBA two-way guys or guys who, aren't locked in, from year to year, who are going to be playing a lot of minutes for those kind of teams. And I think they're going to care. Plus, maybe you give them a little financial incentive, right? To win some of these games. And maybe it's not the individual teams. Maybe it's the NBA, in some way, like rewarding, kind of like they do with the NBA Cup and all this stuff. Like a little financial incentive for wins, at the end of the year.
I like it.
Obviously, big picture, like the NBA season's too long. They should cut it down. The fact. One problem is, as we get into the end of the season, other than maybe a few games here or there with meaningful, ramifications in the standings, the league just kind of drags on, at the end.
Right.
But to me, that's one way you could curb tanking. Give teams an incentive to win at the end of the year.
Well, Scott, you said the NBA season's too long as it is, but isn't it long enough at this point where maybe the NBA Players, Association can work something out with owners that we don't play back-to-backs? There are no back-to-backs. There's enough time in the year to get 82 games in without having to do back-to-backs. That way you can play. Because let me give you an example. All right, Cooper Bemis, right? Who's his favorite team?
The Warriors, probably.
Okay, who's his favorite player?
Steph.
Okay, so Steph Curry, right? So Scott Bemis, the dad.
He's also a Bulls fan.
Amazing dad that Scott Bemis is. He goes out and he buys $400 tickets for him and Coop to go to Chase Center and to go watch Steph Curry play. Only to find out as you're walking in the arena with your great seats that Steph Curry's taking tonight off because it's a back-to-back. I mean, how would you feel? I mean, I feel bad for the fans because they want to see these better players.
Oh, I get it.
So let's guarantee that these better players, that Cooper Bemis, my man Coop, can see Steph Curry play because it's not a back-to-back. Now, if he's truly injured, then he's injured. Unfortunately, that's the way sports go. But not because of a situation where he's sitting out because it's a back-to-back. That's just my thoughts.
Well, like a lot of things, Dean, it's going to take people compromising. right? Because it's going to take the NBA Players Association working with the NBA owners and the NBA owners working with the NBA Players Association, all in conjunction, with Adam Silver, to kind of figure out a way to make this better going forward. But usually what ends up happening is everybody kind of sticks their foot in the mud. The players probably want the paycheck that they get for playing 82 games, even though they only end up playing 60 of them, right?
Look at LeBron. He's not going to be all NBA this year because he's not going to meet the quota.
So maybe at some point you go, hey, you know what? We're structuring contracts in a new way that you only earn a certain amount, for games like outside of like real injuries where you're out for, a couple months or something with a real injury. But if you get what I'm saying. But the problem is nobody ever wants to give in. Nobody ever wants to give anything back that they've kind of already earned through labor negotiations or whatever it is, right? It's so hard to take a step back, but that's when you need real leadership right at the top who can kind of bring everybody together and say, for the betterment of the league.
And the betterment of the game, the betterment of everything.
Because what's happening right now, Dean, is I listen to a ton of sports talk radio.
I know you do.
And the NBA is just constantly getting bashed right now. And it's really not that bad of a product. Like when you get to the playoffs and you have everybody playing, I mean, these are incredible athletes, and you have people who care. Like last year's playoffs were great, we had a kind of a small market matchup in the finals, but it was still a really entertaining finals between the Thunder and the Pacers, right? And these guys are going. I mean, look at Tyrese Halliburton willing to play through what he was willing to play through at that time. Yeah. So it's meaningful to these guys. Even the NBA Cup. From the players' perspective, they're into it. It means something to them, right? So the product really isn't that bad when you get everybody on the floor. But there's all these other things that are leading to constant chatter from the talking heads like you and me of what's wrong with the NBA. Well, you got to address this. You got to figure something out.
That's part of what's wrong. I mean, like you said, college football, the regular season should mean something. It seems like the regular season in the NBA really doesn't mean a whole lot if you've got guys taking 12 to 15 games off just because it's a back-to-back. Let's get that fixed. So, all right, let's talk about yesterday. We had an interesting development here that involves Fresno State. The new Pac-12, which will start this year, put out their football schedule yesterday, and they added a very interesting dynamic in the 13th week of a flex. So, Scotty, you're our sports director. Give us some more knowledge on this one.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Some new wrinkles here with the conference schedule, the way they're doing it. I haven't had a chance to really talk with anybody about this on the Fresno State side to kind of find out what is the goal of this. So the most interesting thing to me, 8 teams in the new Pac-12 football conference.
Right.
There's 9 for basketball. There's only 8 for football at this point. So you're going to play all 7 opponents, right? So you're going to play a 7-game conference schedule. But that's kind of weird, right? Because it's an odd number of games. It's an odd number of games. So first off, you're going to have an unbalanced schedule, road and home, which creates a little bit of an issue. So what the Pac-12 has decided to do, they are going to play like 8 games against conference opponents, but only the first 7 are actually conference games. And then that last game of the year in the final week is a flex week. And you have a projected opponent that you'll play, which would be somebody, for a second time. And I think they're kind of trying to create maybe some rivalries there, for a second time.
But you're saying that game will not count towards the conference standings?
The way I understand it will not count towards the conference standings. And they reserve the right, the conference does, to change that matchup 6 days before. And so that's kind of interesting to me. So, as I'm thinking about it, I think that maybe they're reserving the right to say, hey, now, by the way, the conference title matchup is going to be decided before that flex game, right? So that flex game will not have any bearing on the conference title matchup.
So by week 12, we'll know who the conference.
Yeah, and then they're going to play this flex game in the final week. Like Fresno State will host the flex game because
I saw that
because they want to give everybody 4 home games against conference opponents and 4 road games. But again, that last game won't actually count the conference standings. But it could be college football playoff implications here, right, Dean?
Right.
So they look at it and say, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head of a scenario where maybe, Boise and Fresno State are kind of, on the cusp of getting that, playoff berth as the highest ranked, group of 5 champion or whatever it is, even though I think it's really just the highest ranked group of 5 team now, I believe. I don't think conference championship means anything anymore, but you'll probably have to win your conference, for that to happen.
Right.
maybe you put Boise and Fresno State together because you're like, okay, we're 2 spots behind the American leader right now, heading into that last week.
So there's a chance that Boise can come to Fresno twice because they're already scheduled to come here
earlier
in the year.
Now, more than likely, they're going to stick with that projected matchup. They kind of put a team in there. It's San Diego State.
San Diego State's the one I think would be awesome for Fresno because that game's always fun, and we have to travel to San Diego this year. And that'd be great for that last week.
So I'm just curious, what your first reaction to that? Do you think this is kind of like interesting or a good way, to kind of keep your options open as far as putting maybe a great matchup together to help your college football playoff ranking?
I think under this scenario it's good, but once they get the 8th team, then I feel like it should be the table's set and we shouldn't have to do this anymore.
Yeah, well, no, I would agree. Then you have a balanced schedule, home and away, and all that stuff.
I would rather see the conferences try to schedule a marquee non-conference game, kind of go the opposite of what the SEC does, and then try to travel to go play someone like an Alabama or a Georgia or somebody that can really boost your resume at that point. If you're really on the cusp, right? If you're like a Boise State and you're undefeated, maybe a trip to whoever, to Salt Lake City to play the Utes or to Seattle to play the Huskies or whatever. Because I know Fresno State front loads their schedule. They're going to SC this year, again, playing in the Coliseum. So that's kind of cool.
The problem with that, Dean, I think, is that they want to give, every team 4 home games against conference opponents. So that's the problem, right? If you have to travel, then you only have 3 home. Right. Some teams only have 3.
The Big 12, they don't guarantee you 4 home games. You only Colorado only has 3 this year, so they rotate it.
I get it. I guess from the Mountain West perspective, though, I think that home game, the money they're bringing in from the actual gate at home, much more important to a Mountain West school than it would be to a Big 12 school, which for the TV money would probably carry the day more there.
Yeah. Correction, by the way, 5 home games. They try to give every team 5 home games, and then they get a mandatory 4, and then sometimes they have to play 5 road games.
Here's the funny thing, real quick. Just one more thought on this before we move on. Is that if they play San Diego State again, right?
Yeah.
That first game, the oil can will be on the line, right?
Right. So what happens there? What happens if you win the milk can, though?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, if say Fresno State beats San Diego State that first game, has the oil can, and then they play at the end of the season.
You have it for 40 days.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that second game I would have to get this confirmed.
Yes.
My guess is that game might technically not have the oil can on the line.
Right.
So it'd be funny if San Diego State beat Fresno State.
No, seriously, that's a great question.
But Fresno State still retains the oil can.
That's a great question.
Because the cans aren't on the line in conference title games, right?
So Fresno beats Boise this year coming up. You hold the milk can. You've got it for 2 years. You have to give it back 40 days later if you have to play them in week 13. Great story. Great question. So, hey, let's get to something else Fresno State related I want to mention really quick because we don't really talk about the Fresno State women's basketball team too much. But I got to give them a little shout out here. Huge win last night. It was against Boise. Ryan McCarthy in his first year. I got to give the ladies some love. Nice, I think, 75-69 win at home. Their best win in the McCarthy era so far. So, as our sports director, again, I just want to kind of throw that to you. And what are your thoughts on how Ryan's doing so far in year 1 and where do you see the program headed? Well,
this was a nice step for sure. And keep in mind that Fresno State has been missing one of their best players, pretty much all season long. Ashlyn Reen, a transfer from Alaska Anchorage, one of the transfers, and who really provided an inside presence early in the year. So they've been without her, and that's been affecting this team. I think their ceiling in a way. But they've adjusted well, and I think they're kind of working with a smaller lineup most of the time, and they've got some really fun, exciting guards. The question is going to be, after this season, how sustainable is this? Because you're going to lose a couple, of those transfers. Their best player is a senior grad transfer, so she's going to be moving on. But you have Danae Powell as well, who, I think she's only a sophomore. She was one of the returning players from the previous regime. She's going to be someone that they can continue to build around. Coach McCarthy has, landed a commitment from, a young lady at Clovis West. Great to see him kind of, tapping into that local pipeline as well. Hopefully that will lead to more local stars, going to play for Fresno State, which I think ultimately will kind of be the lifeblood of that program as far as interest in this and that. Sure, you still got to get the big name transfer.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking, Scotty. With NIL and transfer portal and disgruntled players around the country, you need to tap into some of these players who are a little bit more marquee, maybe, Hoops Girls 200, that have kind of fallen off the map at their bigger program, whether it's a Colorado or a Washington, let's just say. Get them in here and make them the big fish in a smaller pond. You never know what could happen. But yeah, I agree with you. Tapping into the Clovis West girls basketball program is never a bad option, or Hanford, or some of these great programs we have here in the Valley, right?
honestly, this year, Clovis High, Central East. I mean, we've seen Clovis West is not the dominant team that they've been this year. I mean, they're in the mix for sure. I'm not going to dismiss them. Probably still the favorite until they get knocked off. But Clovis High is right there. Central East is right there. I mean, they've got really talented players, on these teams, and even some other teams in the track as well. So real quick, kind of projecting this year for Fresno State, the Fresno State women, they're kind of right in the middle of the conference as it stands right now. Great win over Boise, a top 3 team, in the conference at this point. They could be a little bit dangerous in a Mountain West tournament, Fresno State, I'm saying, because of that guard play that they have. Sometimes when you got great guard play in a conference tournament scenario, they defend you really well on the perimeter as well. They can be a little dangerous. I've also noticed a little difference. And again, I haven't been at every, I check in for a half here or half there with Fresno State women in person. But last night, I really noticed, because I was there for the entire second half, Coach McCarthy has kind of amped up the intensity.
Oh, there you go.
You know what I'm saying? Like
up a notch.
Yeah, maybe he's like, hey, you know what? Like, us just kind of winning one, losing one, it's not unacceptable.
It's time to turn the corner a little.
It's time to, he is really, you see it. I mean, the way he's carrying himself on the sideline, he knows we're heading to March, and he's kind of amping the energy up.
All right, well, speaking of heading into March, it's time to get to our money plays. It's Big West night. One of the great things we do on Thursdays here in the winter season is we do Big West night. Scotty and I, really quick one show, really quick.
We got to get a graphic made. Big West night.
We got a new leader in the clubhouse, folks. Yours truly took a small lead over Mr. Bemis. He had a Twitter play last night that unfortunately knocked him down to $740. A $33 loser lead for yours truly, but it's a new day for Scott. We have 2 new plays. Fire away, my friend.
All right, by the way, I am going through kind of a rough stretch with some of these teasers. These look great, look great until the final minute. But we're going to keep firing. You see here, Xavier was an easy cover against St. John's.
That was the last one. Sorry, here's your play. I'm sorry, tonight.
Okay, so we don't want to focus.
Those were the losing plays.
We don't want to focus on the losers. Let's move on.
This is the one.
Fresh start here. So, like you said, it's Big West on the plus Thursday night.
Big West on the plus.
And we also got West Coast Conference on the plus here.
Yes, we do.
Oregon State, for those not paying attention, they're in the West Coast Conference for college basketball now. And Oregon State's been playing a little better of late. Kind of went through a rough patch early in the season. And San Francisco, which has been a really good program in the West Coast Conference in recent years, kind of just taken a step down this year. And they haven't been as dominant at home as they've been in years past. So I think the actual talent level between these two teams is not that different. Sure, San Francisco has a really good home court edge there in the Bay Area, but bumping this up to 14.5, I like my chances with Oregon State. And then UCSB.
There's those Gauchos.
The Gauchos. We're going to check it on
Matt Morse.
We're going to check it on the plus tonight.
Yes, we are.
On
watching
this
and texting each other.
UC Riverside at home hosting UC Santa Barbara. I think Santa Barbara's kind of been playing the best basketball of anybody in the Big West. I gave them out as a play last week, and whatever reason, at UC Davis was the one game they haven't looked good in the last 6 or 7, but every other time they've looked solid. And so I basically just need to win this game against one of the worst teams in the conference. And so I like this teaser tonight. Might have another teaser play for you on Twitter. Keep an eye on my Twitter account, Bemis Online.
All right, we got 1 minute here. I'm just going to go through really quick. Give me the Lakers minus 4.5 after the embarrassment. They're hosting Dallas tonight. I got a little parlay there. Thunder, Trailblazers, Lakers, all favorites tonight. Only 3 games in the NBA. I got a bunch of college basketball, little teaser plays. I want to go down, obviously, to number 6. We're going to talk Big West. I got UC Irvine money line. Give me UCSB with my man Bemis money line. Cal State Fullerton money line.
Like that.
UC San Diego money line there. A couple hockey plays. Got Germany later today playing. Give me Germany minus 1.5 goals against Denmark. And then a little parlay for tomorrow. Finland, after the devastating, defeat yesterday, getting a goal and a half against Sweden tomorrow, and then Canada.
Big rivalry there.
Minus 2.5 goals against Switzerland. Canada again today won 5-0. And then, hey, $50 Olympic NHL future. Well, I can still get it. I got 2-1 basically.
USA.
US men to win goal.
USA. I like it, Dean.
All right, we got about 10 seconds, Scotty. Any last thoughts before we got to go?
I love it when you go with a patriotic play.
We do. We're definitely doing it. So anyway, watch us on Monday. We'll recap all this. Thanks again. This has been the Beem and Dean Show.